Welcome to the Future in Flight podcast, where we launch into the awesome world of aviation. I'm your host, Shawn Starker, and you're in for a real treat today. First, we're going to splash into the thrilling life of seaplane aviation. We'll meet Steve Guetter, General Manager of Advanced Flight Training and Leasing, who turned his childhood dreams of watching planes into a career where he lands on water just as easily as you and I walk on land. But wait, there's more. We're also jetting off into the future with sustainable aviation. We'll explore how the skies are turning greener with innovations like electric planes and hydrogen propulsion. Imagine flying in a jet that's as quiet as your bedroom and as clean and fresh as a mountain breeze. So buckle up, because this episode is all about diving into new horizons and soaring towards a sustainable future. Whether you're dreaming of piloting your own seaplane or designing the next eco-friendly aircraft, you're in the right place. Let's take off together on the Future in Flight podcast. Most pilots look for runways, but there's a special group that sees every lake as a potential landing strip. Today on the Future in Flight podcast, we're diving into the world of seaplane aviation, where the sky and water become one. From a hangar somewhere near the flight line, I'm Shawn Starker. You know that kid in your neighborhood? The one who's always looking up at the planes? In every town with an airport, there's at least one. In Minneapolis, under the approach path to Flying Cloud Airport, that kid was Steve Guetter.
I was that kid that was always building model airplanes and hanging them up from his ceiling in his bedroom, and lived underneath the approach path for airport here in the Minneapolis area called Flying Cloud. So I was always looking up and seeing these small planes flying over.
That kid grew up to be more than just a pilot. He became something of an amphibian himself, someone who lives between two worlds, air and water. Today we're going to tell you his story, and through it explore a corner of aviation that many people never get close to. Steve's first flight wasn't in anything fancy. It wasn't a seaplane or a military jet. It was just a simple Piper Warrior at an airport open house.
The airport had an open house day, and my parents, for the kindness of their hearts, I think paid by the pound or something to give me a 20-minute ride in a Piper Warrior. There were two people in the back seat. I got to sit in the front seat, and we went out and flew over a lake and looked real quick. And
that quick glimpse of a lake from above sparked something in young Steve. Years later, he would take a ground school class as a college elective, leading to an awesome graduation gift.
I actually took a ground school class as part of electives my last year in school, and then started doing some flying. It was my college graduation gift to myself to get my private pilot certificate.
Steve's sense of adventure still called loudly after getting his private pilot certificate, and he would continue to add ratings until eventually learning and now instructing in seaplanes.
But I never thought I'd get into seaplane flying. That seemed to be something that was, out there that, some unobtainium.
Here's something many people don't think about. When you land a plane at an airport, someone has done all of the hard work for you. There are runways, lights, fences. But when you fly a seaplane,
I take a seaplane out to a lake, and I'm now landing in that, and I might have landed on that lake 6 times before, but every day is going to be a little bit different adventure.
And then there's what happens when you reach the beach. Remember those kids who used to watch planes at the airport? Well, now imagine bringing the airport to them.
Most people aren't heading out to an airport, right? And looking at small airplanes taking off and landing. And now we've brought the airport to you, to the general public.
This passion for sharing aviation with others led Steve to Advanced Flight Training and Leasing, a company dedicated to helping seaplane pilots transition into more complex aircraft.
Not doing initial ratings here at the current time. We're working on more transition and advanced ratings. A lot of time with our caravan owner-operators.
But not all seaplanes are about scenic flights and beach landings. Some of them fight fires.
We'll scoop up about 800 gallons in 15 seconds and can be right back on to that fire and dispersing that water.
That's the Fire Boss, an aircraft that can scoop up nearly 7,000 pounds of water in seconds and drop it just as fast. It's like a ballet, a really very wet, very precise ballet that could save someone's home or even their life.
And that air tractor can get into fairly small bodies of water comparison to some of the larger air tankers.
You might think that seaplane pilots and environmentalists would be natural enemies, but in Minnesota, as in many places across the U.S., they've become great allies in protecting the state's precious lakes and coastal waters.
I'm on the board of directors of the Seaplane Pilots Association. That's one of our most important missions as the Seaplane Pilots Association is keeping waterways open for our members and future water flyers, as well as trying to open up new waterways.
Steve pulls out what looks like a simple drill with a special cartridge attached.
This is an SPA tool, DeWalt drill. It has a cartridge on it. We'll go into a float, pump out your float for you, and any water that comes out of a float is going to go through this filter and pull out any invasive species that might be in there are going to stay in the cartridge as opposed to getting dumped back into the lake.
It's a small thing, this filter, this attention to detail. But it's also a perfect metaphor for how these pilots see themselves. Not just visitors to these waters, but stewards of them. You never know when one kind of flying will teach you something about another. Steve learned this one night when everything went wrong.
I actually had an electrical failure in our Bonanza at night many years ago. And when I had taken off out of an airport and the electrical system failed, as I was coming back there, I was thinking, well, I have no way to turn on the lights at the airport that I'm going back into. How am I going to approach this landing? And I thought, you know what? When we do glassy water landings, you really can't tell how high you are off of the surface of the lake.
In that moment, facing a dark runway with no lights, Steve reached back to his seaplane training, to the techniques used for landing on glass-smooth water, where depth perception plays tricks on you. Different situation, same problem. How do you land when you can't trust your eyes?
But I took that and said, you know, if I can't tell quite where I am coming into this runway, I know where the runway starts, I know where the runway is going to end, and I'm going to set myself up for an approach similar to what we do a glassy water approach in a seaplane.
It's a reminder that in flying, as in life, sometimes the skills you need most are the ones you learn solving a completely different problem. When many people think about aviation careers, they picture airline pilots or military aviators, but seaplane aviation offers its own unique career paths.
These airplanes are out being used as air ambulances and getting people in areas that might not have a runway or otherwise are harder to get to, getting people to hospitals and taking care of them. These aircraft are being used to get people to resorts. And it's not just flying the airplane, it's maintaining the airplanes. It's fueling the airplanes, dock handling the airplanes, and then taking care of those passengers when they're getting to and from their destination.
The path to becoming a seaplane pilot typically starts with a private pilot's license, followed by a seaplane rating. But that's just the beginning.
Typically for the seaplane rating, we'll tell people somewhere 8 to 10 hours to get that initial rating and get the check ride done. Insurance companies then are a big driver. If you go out to buy a amphibious airplane, your insurance broker or company is probably going to ask you to work to put together a training plan with someone like Advanced Flight Training and Leasing.
From mountain lakes to coastal waters, from emergency response to adventure tourism, seaplane pilots demonstrate the remarkable versatility of amphibious aviation. As we continue to explore and connect our world's most remote places, these skilled aviators prove that sometimes the best runway isn't a runway at all. Stay tuned. We'll be back with a story on sustainable aviation and how some organizations are striving to make the blue skies greener. Take off with Aviation, America's leading youth aviation magazine. At Aviation, we're here to attract, educate, and empower the next generation of aviators. From standout aviation students and groundbreaking programs to inspiring events, we're giving you a front row seat to the future of flight. Think you have what it takes to be a rising star? Our Rising Star program pairs passionate aviation students with industry sponsors who help celebrate your achievements. And don't miss the Aviation American Dream Tour, coming to a campus near you soon. Dream big, fly high. Join the movement at aviationusa.com. Welcome back to the Future in Flight podcast, the podcast where we explore the skies of tomorrow. Today we're taking off on an adventure into sustainable aviation. We're looking at how the industry is shaping up to reduce its environmental impact. And trust me, the future is soaring with innovation. Let's dive in. First up, let's talk about NASA's push into the future with their AACES 2050 initiative. With a hefty $11.5 million, NASA is betting big on the next generation of aircraft. They're funding studies into everything from hydrogen propulsion to electric aircraft, aiming for net zero emissions by 2050. Imagine flying on an aircraft powered by hydrogen or electricity, quieter and cleaner than anything we've ever known. Companies like Boeing's Aurora Flight Sciences and Pratt & Whitney are leading these studies, exploring designs that sound like they're straight out of science fiction. Now, let's shift gears to the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, or NREL for short. They're not just focusing on the planes themselves, but the entire aviation ecosystem, from fuels to airports. They're pioneering sustainable aviation fuels, electric and hydrogen propulsion, and even thinking about how airports can be greener. Their vision? A decarbonized sky where every element supports sustainability.
It's important for national airspace system operations to be both safe and environmentally compatible. The FAA considers the potential effects of noise, air quality, climate impacts, federally protected species, and historical sites when assessing proposed actions. The NEPA process is about making better, more informed decisions.
That was a clip from the FAA, highlighting how aviation decisions can benefit both the environment and communities. It's not just about the environment, it's about people too. And speaking of pioneering, let's talk about Eviation's Alice, the electric passenger jet that's already taken to the skies. Its maiden flight was a success, showing us that electric aviation isn't just a dream, but a reality for short-haul flights. It's quieter, potentially quieter than the conversation at your family dinner, and far less polluting than traditional aircraft.
Carbon dioxide per passenger mile from a short-haul flight is, again, it's as bad as it gets. With Ellis, there are no specific emissions. Nothing comes out of the airplane, no carbon, no exhaust, and very little noise.
Moving on to fuel, the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, or AOPA, has been at the forefront of testing new sustainable solutions. Here's a clip from AOPA's video discussing their two fuels in a Beechcraft Barron test, which gives us a glimpse into the practical application of unleaded fuel in aviation.
It behaves pretty much the same in the airplane. You really cannot tell the difference. The Barron, it pulls just as hard on either side. You'd be hard pressed to know which fuel is unleaded. Once you're established in cruise, you can lean the unleaded fuel a little bit more aggressively, and you can use a little bit less per hour in fuel flow. So if it's 13 gallons an hour on the avgas side, it's 12.5 gallons an hour on the GAMI side.
Did you catch that? The new fuel is a little bit more efficient than the older 100LL, and it's more environmentally friendly. We call that a win-win, though the new fuel does come with some noticeable drawbacks outside of the cockpit.
Unleaded fuel is just about identical to operating with the traditional avgas. But outside the airplane, it's a little different because, I mean, it looks like apple juice, it smells like turpentine. You know, it's got quite a tendency to stain if it, if it touches, like the white paint on this airplane, and is allowed to dry without being wiped away immediately. The fuel caps on the left side that's been running the G100 UL, they're kind of stained and yellow as a result of the fuel that's managed to get on there.
We can't forget the ground game. Airports around the world are stepping up their sustainability game. From Boston Logan with its LEED certified terminals to the Galapagos Ecological Airport, powered almost entirely by renewables, these hubs show that green aviation starts on the ground. And here's a fun fact from Oslo Airport. They store snow in summer for cooling. Talk about thinking outside of the box, or in this case, the freezer.
The environmental protection specialists analyze airport and airspace operational data and conduct a noise screening analysis using special modeling software to look for significant or reportable noise impact. The software models the environmental consequences of noise, fuel consumption, emissions, and air quality.
That clip touched on how airports manage noise, another critical aspect of sustainability. It's all about balancing growth with environmental care. So what does this all mean for you, the young aviation enthusiast out there? It means the future of flight is not just about speed and distance, but about sustainability, community, and innovation. Whether you're dreaming of piloting an electric plane or designing the next green airport, the sky's the limit, and it's greener than ever. Today on the Future in Flight podcast, we embarked on two incredible journeys. First, we dove into the world of seaplane aviation with Steve Guetter of Advanced Flight Training and Leasing, exploring how these amphibious marvels connect land, sky, and water. From scenic beach landings to critical firefighting missions, we've seen how seaplanes are more than just aircraft. They're a bridge between worlds. Then we soared into the future with sustainable aviation, discussing NASA's ambitious AACES 2050 initiative, the pioneering work at NREL, and the exciting developments like Eviation's Alice electric jet. We explored how the aviation industry is not just aiming to fly, but to do so in harmony with our planet. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Future in Flight podcast. If you enjoyed our deep dive into the skies of tomorrow, we'd love for you to subscribe to our show. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us continue bringing these stories to life. And if you could take a moment to leave a review, it would help us tremendously in reaching more aviation enthusiasts like yourself. Until next time, keep looking up, stay curious about the future of flight, and fly safe. This has been Shawn Starker signing off from a hangar somewhere near the flight line for the Future in Flight podcast.